National Peanut Day is September 13th. So for the facts for the field today, I just really wanted to cover three main points about peanuts and peanut production. Especially it's a pretty important part of the agricultural economy in the state of Georgia. Over 600,000 acres are grown in peanuts in the state. So for me, I really wanted to take this time to kind of focus on some points that are kind of broad. So if you're in peanut production, you might know these, but for everybody else, it's kind of important that, we do a little ag education today. So first of all, what does a peanut plant look like? Well, this is a peanut plant. It grows low to the ground, kind of like a bush. And it's pretty special because there's a lot of unique things about peanuts that are pretty unusual. First of all, you can kind of see these right here. These are actually mechanisms that put and dig the actual peanut seed, which is obviously in this pod, into the ground. And these are called pegs. And so the stems, well, I call them stems, but they actually push down into the ground. And why do they do that? Well, it's because they need plant food. They need certain nutrients, and the peanut plant itself is not very adequate as far as translocating these nutrients through the plant, the traditional roots. So therefore the fruit, the peanut pod and seed need to get in the ground to get those nutrients. So, they do bloom. There's some yellow blooms right here that you can kind of see. There's a little one right here. So the yellow bloom is really funny because most of the time when fruits bloom, they get pollinated and they form a fruit above the ground. These form fruit underneath the ground. So they grow low, they dig, they form the pods underneath the ground. But then what about this glass of milk I have? How does it relate to peanut production? Well, this glass of milk is a great source of calcium. And calcium, as humans, we need to have strong bones, and calcium is involved with lots of other processes in the human body. And so it's important to know that peanut plants, they also need calcium. And because these pods, when they're forming, the reason they peg is to get that calcium. And so if they don't have adequate calcium, whenever you'll have a peanut pod like this, it forms a disorder called pops. And so pops can basically leave you without a seed, without any food for your actual pod. Pod can look nice, but you might not have any seed. So we want to avoid pops, and so applying land plaster or gypsum to the soil, to the actual pegging zone where the peanut peg can actually get that calcium is critical for peanut production. And you can also obviously use lime, dolomitic or calcitic limestone pre-plant. But I wanted to share kind of a general story about peanut production and something that changed my life. Several years ago, I had the opportunity to be involved with a group that traveled to a third world country, and we actually got to go sit down and kind of work and educate and serve this orphanage. And these were kids that were between 5 and 10 years old, sweet little kids. And we played games and sports with them. But at the end of the day, after all the sports and games were done, they rang a bell and everybody ran inside, and when they ran outside, they had a spoon. Just like is inside this peanut butter jar. And one of the leaders of our group brought a 5-gallon jar of peanut butter out. It was the biggest jar of peanut butter I've ever seen in my life. And for me, it was just wild to see all these kids, and they dug their spoon in and they got way more than 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. And then we also had a big 5-gallon thing of milk. And the kids were so excited and they were so grateful and thankful. And it made me, question. I looked at the leader. I said, why are they so excited? It's just peanut butter and milk. And the leader looked at me. He said, this is the only source of protein these kids may get through the whole week. And they get great fats and they get a lot of other nutrients just from this powdered milk and from this peanut butter. And it made me so grateful to live in a country where we have so many things. We have so many sources of protein and food and nutrients, and we just take it for granted. This jar of peanut butter, it represents life to some people. It represents feeling whole and feeling healthy. And for us, it's just something that we put in our pantry and dig out as a late night snack. So I hope you'll maybe get a spoon, maybe spread the love with peanuts on National Peanut Day. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.